the crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 57 of Dads from the Crypt, a Tales from the Crypt podcast. My name is Jason. I'm joined by two amazing gentlemen that go by Jody and Mondo.
Mondo and I both decided who talks first.
We're gonna do this again. So all right. So we're gonna choose violence right out of the gate. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you, Jason. Let's do this tonight.
How's it going, guys?
Well, now I don't know because I'm just throwing off. Like my whole day is ruined. Like my uncle's gonna get in a car accident now because we started this episode differently.
No.
I'm just kidding. I don't even know if he drives. And it depends on which uncle, because there's some I have an uncle that definitely probably would be the world would be a better place if
No, let's not go down there. Jody, how are you?
We're just starting off strong tonight.
Well,
I'm good. I was supposed to go to a small town county fair tonight, and we got that moved to tomorrow night. But I'm already like I was hyped for it, so I'm thinking about corn dogs and candy apples and.
Tell our listeners about the shirt.
Oh, I've got a Nightmare on Elm Street shirt.
Oh no, the one from your mom.
Oh yeah, my mom actually got me a shirt that says "I'm just here for the corn dogs." Because that's why I go to the fair. The entire fair exists as a place for me to buy food. My kids like to ride rides. I've never been a rider at like a county fair. The county fair rides always kind of freak me out, because
I'll do the tilt-a-whirl.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
You're a braver man than I am because I've seen how they put those things together.
I'll do the Ferris wheel. That seems you're up high, but the way that I figured it back all the way in elementary school. We would go to like our local theme park. It was Opryland in Nashville at the time. And they would occasionally make new rides, just like Disney or whatever. And there'd be a sign up saying coming soon. And it would be months and months and months of them building these rides and testing them and all this. When the fair rolls into town, one day there's a field and the next day it's full of rides. Like 24 hours later, it happens overnight. And I know there's got to be a lot of alcohol involved as these things are being set up. So I'm like, I don't know about the idea of putting my life in the hands of a drunken carny.
I mean, they're probably not doing background checks on these guys. It's probably like, you have two hands and you don't mind me paying you under the table unless a minimum wage, you're hired.
There has got to be jobs out there for folks who are, on the run or hiding from the law. Like these jobs have to exist, and they exist at the county fair. If we actually have any listeners who have ever worked at a carnival and you're offended by what we say, like talk to us about it. Because I'm actually interested interest. Have you ever watched did you ever watch the Clerks cartoon, the animated series back in the day?
Way back in the day.
They did a whole episode about them building a carnival across the street from the Quick Stop, and that's cool. It's one of my favorite episodes of all that. Probably my favorite episode of that entire show.
Well, so at my wife's work, they have like carnivals once or twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And in LA, you can just hire someone, and they have like basically these trucks, like just like a transformer that just kind of like unfolds into like a carnival ride. It's all mobile.
But when I see them set up like the big slides or something like that, I'm like, that's cool, whatever. But when they have a tilt-a-whirl with all those moving parts and gears, I just don't trust that it's been. I don't trust that it's been properly maintained.
I saw a video that went around sometime in the last year of a fair where there's this ride that everyone sits in, and then it just kind of like swings up in a big circle, and the whole thing starts leaning back, and so all these grown men run up and like grab the front of it and hold the friggin' thing down so it doesn't flip over full of people. And I'm like, that's always been what I've thought.
That's terrifying.
Did they tell you guys my Six Flags story?
Oh no, was this at Six Flags in California?
Yeah, it was at the one in Santa Clarita, and I hadn't been to like a real like roller coaster theme park, whatever in a while.
Wait, there's one in Valencia too? Is that the same one? Same one. Okay.
Yeah, and I hadn't been to one. I'd start taking a blood pressure medication that kind of messes with you in random ways. And they had this one, it's all DC themed. So it's the Wonder Woman whirl. It's the one with like the big circle, you stand up against it and it starts spinning really, really fast.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I haven't done that
And then
one.
like it like tilts you up.
Yeah.
When it was dawn, this is the first ride we went on. I had the worst vertigo of my life. I could not walk straight. I wasn't puking, but like I could just not get myself together. And as when we walked in, they had an oxygen bar, which I've never been to one. It seems really gimmicky. But then as we're walking, someone says, "Oh, hey, yeah, you go to the oxygen bar. It's good for nausea." And I'm like, "Okay," and it just I'd say it cured me all the way, but like it got me back to normality. It was It was amazing.
Yeah, I remember riding on one of those things when I was a kid. We went to the Space Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and they do one of those because the astronauts do like the centrifugal force G's thing. And while we were on it, my dad was like, "Try tilting your head forward." He knew exactly what it would be like. And so I did that, and like it was fine up against the wall, but as soon as my head tilted forward, instant dizziness and everything else. He just did that to mess with me.
That makes my stomach turn just thinking about that. I hate that feeling.
Oh no, I mean now, like last time we went to the beach, I was like reading in the car, like reading an article on my phone while my wife was driving, and like we had to pull over because I had to throw up because I can't handle motion sickness anymore.
So what's crazy, I can handle like all the roller coasters, right? They're all I love roller coasters, but that fucking pirate ship that just swings back and forth like a pendulum. If I'm on one of those, I'm probably just gonna vomit. I hate those so much. I went out. The only last time I went on one was it might have been at Six Flags, or it might have been here at the Adventure Dome in Las Vegas. You know, before it's me, I took my daughter. She was young, so a bunch of kids, right? And me and a handful of adults. And you know, the guys says if you feel nauseous, just raise your hand. After 20 seconds, I'm like, I can hold out. After 30 seconds, I was the guy with my hand over my mouth, my hand raised. You got to stop this ride right now. But roller coasters, love them. Don't bother me.
Oh yeah, me too.
One last thing before I move on, the Dead Meat YouTube channel, they're redoing their Chucky videos, and the finale in Chucky 3 is at a county fair setting.
Yes,
and they're doing a lot of background information. Yeah, they're doing a lot of background production stuff when they do their videos, so it's very informative. And they actually put the whole thing together just for the production.
Ooh.
They actually basically hired a fair to come and set up and do the shooting. So I'm just imagining all these extras that they get to go to a fair for free or get paid, but then they have to keep going the ride over and over and over again to keep continuity.
That's funny.
There's something about like, okay, this is like sacrilege for my area, but the fair is just it's fine for me. Like when I was in school, they let us out of school for a day to go to the fair. That's how big a deal it is in a small town like this. It's fine. I enjoy it. I like the food. It's a good time to get together with the family and do stuff. But in movies, if you put a fair scene or a carnival scene, I am there. I love it. It's one of my favorite places to set a movie.
Dr.
Play 3, Ghoulies 2,
Dr. Giggles.
Dr. Giggles, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Like I love a carnival in a horror movie. It's just a great location.
They're always so much cooler though than they ever are in real life.
Oh yeah. And it's a dirty place. Too many people around in real life.
So can I ask you, Jody, as someone who grew up in a small town, when you guys were young, was that like or even in high school, was it a big deal to go to the fair? And
no, it was a huge deal. I had friends in elementary school in the mid 80s that would save up over the year, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I got $300 for the fair this year," and I'm like, "I have never seen $300."
And that's $300 like 1990 money.
Yeah, man. Like they would save up and take a ton of money, and like I said, they used to let us out of school for a day. It was fair day, and we would be off school to go to the fair. There's not a lot to do out here, all right? So when it comes through, it's a big deal.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's cool. I always saw that growing up in movies in Las Vegas. We have like 8 fairs a year in different areas, and no one really went to them all. But I will say the one perk of growing up in Las Vegas and going to school in Las Vegas, October 31st is Nevada Day. It's a day Nevada was ratified as a state, so it's a state holiday, and you're always off on Halloween.
Nice. That's a really big perk.
They've changed it recently to where now they do it observed. Everyone gets a 3-day weekend, which is kind of lame, because when I was young, you just knew you're off on Halloween. You didn't have to go to school on Halloween. So maybe that's part of where my love of Halloween came through, as a day off of school, and I got to go trick or treat and then get all the candy.
All right, Well, let's get the show on the road. Tonight, we're talking about As Ye Sow, which was released on October 2nd, 1993. Jody, give us a plot synopsis.
All right. So we open on the Crypt Keeper as a radio talk show host giving advice. And I'm starting to think, now that we're 5 seasons in, there's just like a roulette wheel sometimes of what Crypt Keeper persona we're going to get, because that is nothing. There's no radio in this episode at all, but it's always fun to see him in costume.
It was like the Howard Stern years.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end, he literally turns into Howard Stern.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Spoiler for the closer there. But yeah, he turns into Howard Stern. After getting shocked, he becomes a shock jock. All right. So into our actual story here. We open on camera surveillance footage of a woman whose name is Bridget going in and out of buildings and just like going about her life. All this shot by a private detective. There's nothing incriminating happening in any of this, but her husband, Leo, is convinced that she's up to something. We find out she's 24 years younger, and the detective is like, I think you're just being insecure and maybe you should get some marriage counseling. Well, Leo doesn't like this, so he goes to another guy. And this first detective's office is real like nice and clean and modern. The second one's the detective's office you expect to if you're going to go like try to catch your wife in an affair. It's this dirty little dark place.
The
stuff
warehouse
piled up everywhere. What's up?
It was in the warehouse.
Yeah. And so he goes to this different detective who specializes in tracking infidelity. He says if he's suspicious, it probably means that there's something actually happening. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And he asks about, what clued you into this? What made you think? And he finds out a few months before all of this, they'd stopped having sex. And then the detective asked him if she wears, quote, easy access clothing, like skirts that can be pulled up or pants with elastic waistbands or whatever. So it makes Leo start getting suspicious.
Is she walking around in crotchless panties?
Depends on how easy the access needs to be, I guess. But when he gets home, he starts going through her clothes, looking for evidence. And his wife, Bridget, catches him, and he tries to make a move on her, but she kind of shuts him down. And so back at the detective's office later, Leo's shown a folder full of pictures. And he says, well, this is just the same stuff I've seen before. But but the detective points out, when she goes into the local Catholic church for mass, she looked okay going in, but she looked pretty happy coming out. And the detective implies that she is having an affair with the young, handsome priest at that parish, Father John Sejic. Is that how you said the last name?
Something like that. Sounds about right.
Apparently he's a radical because he is not against contraception. He's not against a lot of stuff the Catholic Church like officially is against. Leo doesn't believe it, but he goes to the church to talk to the priest anyway. Father Cedric's there. He's playing the organ when Leo gets there. And there's some kind of innuendo about an organ, like it's not done intentionally, but Leo's reading a lot into everything.
Yeah, for our listeners, he's playing a physical pipe organ.
He's not playing his organ, he's playing an organ.
Jody let's have some tact here.
We're a classy show, guys.
Making sure it's clear here before I start talking about this fair, what I'm meaning here. All right, so the father says that he just wants to meet people where they are. He doesn't want to condemn people for things like premarital sex and infidelity, but just, to kind of welcome them in. And Leo feels weird about all this. Leo pretends to be like he's new to the neighborhood. And then before he leaves, Leo asks the priest why he wears a cassock. And that's like that long robe that the priest wears sometimes. And Father John says it's more comfortable and sometimes it comes in handy. I don't know what that means. Maybe he can go to the toilet easier. I don't know. But Leo goes right back to that easy access thing that he heard from the detective.
Yeah, it comes in handy. It makes his job easier,
Yeah. I mean, it's comfortable. You have like one outfit. Who wants to wear a suit?
Does he not wear pants under that?
I mean, it doesn't seem like it.
I mean, Jason, is that a proper question to be asking of a priest?
Oh, I'm Jewish. I don't know how those things are.
Don't rabbis wear something similar?
No.
They don't? Okay. I'm sorry.
That's
apologies.
All right. So when the priest leaves, Leo looks down
just
from
don't
the
wear
balcony.
pants in general.
I just, you know, though, like when you say that, I don't think of anything bad. I just think of a rabbi walking around like I'm dressed like a tank top and shorts and flip flops. Like that's just
comfy.
Yeah.
Comfy. All right. So Leo looks down from the balcony as the priest leaves, and he just happens to be there as Bridget is going into the confession booth. And he watches them go into their separate little sections, and Leo kind of has this whole imagination scene of his wife and the priest in the confession booth together. Now, he does know they go in separate entrances, right? Like, they don't go in the same thing. Either way, Leo.
What do you mean,
Leo's
Jody?
imagination
I mean,
is very vivid.
But you've seen Glorious, right?
I haven't yet, actually.
All I'm saying is they mentioned something, and I've never seen one of these. Maybe Jason can explain what this is, but it's about a movie about a glory hole.
Yeah.
And I figure like there could be one in the confessional, right? Like
we're gonna apologize to all of our we're apologizing to all of our Catholic listeners right off the top.
Sorry, we are not. Jason is apologizing. I'm just saying there could be one in there. I'm not saying there is.
In the realm of possibilities, there could be one, but that's not what Leo's imagining. Leo is imagining a full-out Cinemax moment happening inside the confessional.
And for the record, I'm not going to apologize to truck drivers either for saying there's usually glory holes in truck stops.
All right. Taking on the big guys today, taking on truck drivers and the Catholics.
Hey, I'm not saying you have to use it when you go in the bathroom. I'm just saying sometimes it's there.
It's just available.
I've seen them. They're there. They exist. This is a real thing.
All right. So after all this, after Leo has his very explicit imagining of his wife having sex with a priest, it's not explicit for Tales from the Crypt, but it would be explicit for something to see your wife doing.
It was kind of like Red Shoe Diaries-esque, like maybe toned down just a little bit from that, but it was kind of HBO saucy for the 90s.
Yeah, a little soft focus saxophone music,
Yeah.
So Leo goes back to the detective, who the detective tells him it sounds like its marriage is already over, but Leo says I can still get her back if only that priest were out of the way. So the detective's like, say what you want to say. And he says, I want the priest dead. And he wants Bridget to see it happen. The detective says he can make that happen for $100,000, $50,000 to the guys he hires, $50,000 to himself, paid in advance. And Leo agrees to it. The detective says, okay, so when you leave here, I never want to see you or hear from you ever again. We're never going to talk. We're never going to communicate in any way. Just go about your life like normal and it will get taken care of. So Leo drops off the money in a storage locker at a bus stop. He mails the key out. And then instead of going around his life like normal, he sits outside the church in his car, just waiting for the assassin to come.
I mean, how
it could be months.
How normal can your life be, though, after you just paid someone to potentially kill a priest?
Yeah.
A priest that actually, as a guy who's an atheist, a priest that seems like a pretty good priest.
Like a good guy.
Yeah. Like I'd want to go to his house for corn dogs.
Also, if you're going to be like paying for an assassination, do you really want to be like there when it happens? Like
the whole point of paying somebody else to do it, to like give you a layer between you.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're, and this is just true for anybody. If your spouse dies, no matter what the circumstances are, you are the number one suspect.
Yeah, yeah.
Or your spouse's lover. Yeah.
So anyway, he sits there and watches. And later that night, Bridget's getting into bed and Leo apologizes to her without really saying what he's apologizing for. He again tries to make a move on her and is rejected again. And so we see Leo again kind of outside his car, imagining his wife and the priest together again and just like waiting for this assassin to come. And it gets him so worked up that he goes home and Bridget's getting ready and he yells at her. And then he goes to the detective's office and it's completely empty, except for the desk that had been sitting there before. And, kind of rages and screams. And then he goes back to the bus station. The money's gone. He thinks he's been screwed by these guys. $100,000 gone. And he goes back to the church with a knife in his hand. And he's checking around in the confessionals, I guess, looking for the priest. But then he steps into one. And as he's in there, he hears a voice coming from beside the partition there, and it's his wife. She's asking the father if he's there. And so Leo pretends to be the priest by whispering really quietly for some reason. Like,
can I ask a question? Have either of you guys been in a confessional?
I was Baptist.
Okay, I just don't know because
Jews don't have that.
Because I didn't know if you could see the other person because he puts the collar on.
Yeah.
I
guess
kind of weird.
Maybe if the person stood directly in, because there's a little screen there, right? So I guess if he was,
I don't know.
I mean, in the picture, there's
I've seen
according
Sister
to
Acts,
my
1 and 2.
I was gonna say, according to my knowledge that comes from Sister Act and nunsploitation movies, there's a little divider of some sort.
Nuns on the Run.
If you would like to know more about nunsploitation movies, listen to me and Joe talk about them on No Film Left Behind, episode 1.
There's been a lot of nunsploitation films, and so in those confessionals, was there ever a glory hole?
I'm sure there was. There's a lot happening in those movies. Anyway. So anyway, she starts to confess her sins to him, and she says she's been a terrible wife who's been lying to her husband. So of course he's like, okay, yeah, tell me more. What have you been lying about? And it's why they don't have sex anymore. And the reason why, he finds out, is she's been avoiding it because her mother died in childbirth, and she's deathly afraid of getting pregnant because of what happened to her mom. No affair, nothing going on. She's just very worried about getting pregnant, and that's why she's been avoiding having sex with her husband. And Leo lights up. He realizes he's been wrong all this time. His suspicions have been wrong. And he lets her know that it's him. And they both step out of the confessional and they hug each other. And then a man with a gun appears, wearing like a long coat and a hat, shoots Leo once, and then right in his ear shoots him again, right in front of Bridget, just like he asked for. And then as the camera pans away, Father John steps in very calmly, I might add. Like the priest is just there like, oh, time to give the last rites. Like there was a murder in the church and he's just like, okay, well, time to do my job. But he delivers the last rites to Leo as he dies on the floor of the church.
I mean, he was a badass priest, kind of like, what's the line in From Dusk Till Dawn? When he goes, are you a coward? Are you a badass motherfucking servant of God? He's a badass motherfucking servant of God, or whatever the line is.
So I never remember that line. I always think of the line from Dead Alive where the priest jumps out, I kick ass for the Lord.
Yes. What a great movie. It's so fun, too, to know that Peter Jackson did that and then made Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I love Peter Jackson. That man is a great man.
He's a treasure.
All right, Mondo, start us off. What did you think of this episode?
Didn't love it, didn't hate it. I was very middle of the road on this because I thought the acting was really good, really great. The story was okay, though. A lot of problems. There's a lot of problems in this episode. And maybe, sign of the times, right? If you have to hire a private investigator to investigate your wife because she won't sleep with you, a lot of that can be handled with just general conversation and communication. And if you ever have to hire a private eye, and then when he says everything's cool and you hire a seedier private eye, you probably shouldn't listen to the seedier private eye. You should probably listen to the guy, because there's a point where he said, are you sure that she didn't see anybody? And he goes, I have two people, one inside and one at the back too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that enough? He goes, it's enough for the FBI. So at that point, you should have felt pretty good about where he was. But then the fact he hires a seedier private eye, then the fact he poses as the priest, and she's just totally cool with this invasion of her privacy. And the fact is, like, she had some real trauma, obviously, from her mom passing away in childbirth. And instead of saying, hey, look, I don't want to get pregnant, we should try contraceptives, or we should try this and this. None of that happened. And
I just had this realization why that wasn't a discussion. It's the contraceptions come up multiple times.
They bring it up
in this episode.
And at no point. And here's my other problem with the episode is, why didn't the priest ever talk to her about contraceptives?
Yeah.
Obviously, he was doing a good job making her feel better about herself, but he wasn't actually fixing the problem. So maybe he was kind of problematic. But
also, on that same vein, how did he not know how his wife's mother died? I think that'd be something you would know through the course of a relationship.
You might not. Yeah, you might not discover that on a first date, right? Even the first month.
But marriage.
I think eventually, and what she also brings up, that he wants children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I missed that.
That's that's
something you want to talk about.
That's a super important conversation, right? And this is even to any, and I hate to say this, but even to any young people out there, if you want to have kids and your partner doesn't, that's a conversation you have to have early in the relationship, because that could be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
And don't and seriously, I don't know if I just say this, but don't think you're going to change your partner's mind.
Yeah.
That's too big an issue.
That's a huge
to
issue.
Go in with huge differences.
Yeah, 100%. Either you have to accept what they want, or you have to, and you shouldn't. I mean, God, way off track here, but I don't feel like that should be a compromise if you really want babies and the other person doesn't. Like, that's something that might be a deal breaker, and that's just life. That's how life is sometimes. So I really didn't love it because there's a lot of problematic stuff in this, and at the end, like, now this woman is just, like, she's gonna have the trauma now of losing her mom in childbirth and watching her husband murder next to her. Obviously didn't trust her. All that's going to come out. The only smart person in the whole episode was a skeezy lawyer, or was a skeezy PI who fled town with the money. He's the smartest guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a biggest. I love Adam West. I love that. Whenever I hear his voice, it's I love his iconic voice. And I really liked the lead actor. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's
Hector Elizondo.
He's played a lot of fun stuff. I'm sure you'll get into that later, Jason. But he's always he's always been mainly a character actor, a cop. He's always a fun actor. But like I said, there's a lot of problematic stuff in this. And it just didn't do it for me. I didn't think it was a bad episode, but I wouldn't put it in I'd call it a skip.
Jody, what'd you think?
Yeah, so I understand everything that Mondo just said, but I love this episode. Like, I love a good film noir, like people doing detective stuff and double crossing and twist and turns. And I feel like the twist in the end of this guy's paranoia getting him was just perfect. Like,
good point.
The woman was innocent. She hadn't done anything other than maybe they need to communicate better in their relationship.
But bad communication by no means is a reason to like make you a heel or be an antagonist. No. That's just part of life. I'm a terrible communicator. I'll admit it. I'm working on it. So yeah, I agree that she definitely wasn't even though I was talking bad about the communication, by no means am I saying that she's an antagonist.
Yeah, no, I just think this guy sealed his own fate with his own paranoia, and I like a story like that where everything you said is right, and this poor woman is going through some trauma. But I mean, in Tales from the Crypt, there's a lot of trauma to go around. For a non-supernatural, non-gory episode, like this is a very tame episode of Tales from the Crypt. And normally, like the one we watched last week that was just super nasty and gross and bodies everywhere, I love that one. But I also really enjoyed this one too. I thought it was just a really good, twisty kind of film noir. Like it definitely, like all you needed was a voiceover and a little more saxophone and smoking, and you would have a film noir 100%. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one a lot. I didn't see the twist coming. I knew there would be a twist, but I kept coming up with the wrong twist, like I was trying to figure it out. Like I thought at one point, what if she's having an affair with the detective that's setting all this up? What if the priest is in on something, which, his calm reaction to someone dying in his thing, maybe he was in on something. But in the end, it was just him. It was his own paranoia and something innocent that could have been worked out if you hadn't gone immediately to, this relationship seems troubled. I think the best thing to do is to hire a detective. He made his own bed and he paid the price for it right at that moment when things should have gotten better, And so just a guy being his own downfall, something about that story. I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And all the acting was fantastic in it. I thought the priest was really good. I thought the main guy was good. The wife, I really, she played that innocence, but also like there was something going on. You could tell there was something going on. She kept brushing him off, and I just thought it was really well put together.
I looked her up. I thought she was really good in this. And she is a daughter of Robert Redford and Mia Farrow.
Really?
No, she played the role of
okay. I read that wrong then.
Yeah, so I thought the same thing. I'm like, wait, there's no way those two people were ever together and had a daughter. So her first role was in The Great Gatsby, the 1974 version with
Robert Redford and Mia Farrow. Makes sense.
Yeah, she played their daughter.
I read that blurb. Okay, it makes sense.
But what's interesting though is Sam Waterston, who plays the detective, was also in that adaptation of The Great Gatsby.
Oh, really?
Like 20 years before that.
And one thing I'll say, Jody, by the way, you make a lot of great points. I do love your stance on. I think that's just maybe for me right now, like my house is going through this really cool thing where we're all trying to work on our mental health. Yeah, and I think maybe that's why that bugs me more than it normally would.
Sure.
Because when you start talking about how it's a film noir, like I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even pick that up. And usually, like I love film noirs. Mm-hmm. So maybe if I watch it again with a little bit less critical eye, maybe I'd like a little bit more. But I think you make some really good points.
Yeah, I'm definitely more in the Jody camp. Armando, everything you said is completely valid, and I could definitely see that. And I think with lesser actors and the lesser director, it would fall on its face. But actually, I think the directing is really, really good.
Oh yeah, real fast. Like Kyle MacLachlan directed this.
Kyle MacLachlan directed this,
and I think the same thing because again, like I can't shit on this because you're right. The acting was amazing and the direction was great. So I'm like, what else has Kyle MacLachlan directed?
Nothing.
How
has he not directed anything?
He did such a good job as a director on this. I couldn't believe that he didn't direct anything else.
Mr. MacLachlan, if you're listening, go direct some more things because this is really, really well done.
When did this episode come out again?
93.
October 93.
So this is post Blue Velvet and post Twin Peaks. So I just feel like he had to be taking some cues from David Lynch with some of the detective-y type stuff.
I could see
that. He had been in, because I love Blue Velvet too. Blue Velvet's another one of those film noir type movies that I love. And I just feel like he had to have picked up some stuff from being around Lynch and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I love it when, especially like actors who've been in tales or just, are trying directing like Michael J. Fox did, when they kind of jump into these roles and they come up with something really, really good. And you're like, damn, they need to do more of this. So I think the acting and the directing really push this above because I think if with a lesser director, lesser cast, this would be like ho hum.
I sometimes wonder if like these actors who jump into directing and do like the one episode Tales from the Crypt, if they realize how difficult it is, even though they're really good. Yeah. Like, I don't ever want to. I'm good at it, but I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. The beginning was so funny because it's Adam West, who OG Batman. And it's just kind of his voice. Don't really see him yet. So, but in my head, the second you start talking, I'm like, Batman. And then he starts talking to the main guy, Hector Elizondo. The character's name is Burns. Mm-hmm. He keeps talking about Mr. Burns. And I just kept hearing Batman talking about Mr. Burns. I'm like, is this a Simpsons episode? What is that? Family Guy? What's happening here?
When I hear Adam West's voice, unfortunately, despite all my love for early Batman, I hear Family Guy. Like I hear the mayor.
He was such a good voice actor in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny I say Mr. Burns. Like, I need a Smith. I never knew that I needed a Batman Simpsons crossover.
Yeah,
but here we are.
Totally. And again, that role is like one scene. Could have been anybody, but they got Adam freaking West, so that's just cool off the bat. The main actor, Hector Elizondo, he's been in so many things. He was in the original Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. He had that great role as like the hotel executive in Pretty Woman. He was in like 300 episodes of Chicago Hope or whatever.
He was the owner of the island in the great Dan Aykroyd film Exit to Eden.
Oh. And then again, Patsy,
personal favorite.
Yeah, Patsy Kensit is really good. She's in a ton of things, but she also was in a adaptation of The Turn of the Screw in 1992, which looks interesting. The hot priest, I'll go off the bat and say John Shea is a very handsome man. Mm-hmm. He was Lex Luthor in the Lois and Clark from the 90s.
That's exactly why I know him.
I know.
I love that show.
I love that show as a kid.
There's a movie with Jason Mewes of Kevin Smith movie fame, where I forgot the name of it, but he's learning. It's called like method acting. He's learning how to method act, and the big joke is Dean Cain running around in disguise the whole time because he's afraid he's going to get recognized. He's really dug into the fact that nobody really knows who he is anymore, and I kind of love it.
It's Sam Waterston plays the detective. And again, that's another person where, like, to me, he's just a Law and Order guy.
Yeah, a million
And to
episodes
see
of Law
him,
and Order.
Okay,
to
hold on
see
a
him
second.
as a younger man with like color in his hair and a goatee, I was like, wait, is this really the same person?
Are you not going to talk about his greatest movie role of all time?
Go on.
He was the dad in Serial Mom.
Ah, yes.
Oh, that's right. I
And
forgot about that.
And you know the best part about it is, you know what his name is in the movie?
Dad.
Dad.
Yeah, it's just Dad. Yeah, I saw
It's just
that.
Dad. They never actually give him a name in the whole movie. And my favorite line by Matthew Lillard is, they're running into the metal venue, and he goes, "Dad, this is Hammersmiths. Try to act cool."
Yeah, he was also in more recently Frankie and Grace, was a great show, at least for the first couple of seasons, The Newsroom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I thought was funny, again, a really nothing role that they got someone to play for the assassin is Miguel Ferreira.
Yes,
who was in Twin Peaks. He was in RoboCop. He was the big bad in the Thing from the Grave, the Tales from the Crypt episode.
Oh,
I think the one we did with Elizabeth.
I remember him from the Stephen King Stand miniseries back in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. He was like the bad guy's #1 henchman or something. Like,
yeah.
he's in everything.
Yeah, it was just so random. Again, there's no reason for you to see this person's face or anything, but then they got, a name, not a huge name actor, but
definitely a character actor.
Good character actor for a really nothing role. And he says right in the ear or something like that. It was really weird.
Well, I think during the scene with the detective, when he's setting up the murder, Leo stabs a knife into the table and says something like right in the ear or something like that.
I know,
so
it's just a weird
comes
thing.
Back around. Yeah.
You can say in the head or, in the brain, but in the ear.
It's a weird one-liner for sure.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to shoot somebody and say a one-liner, you need to shop that a little bit.
Yeah. And again, there's in the script, there's a couple weird things. So like, there's that scene where the father is playing the organ up on the upper balcony and they're talking, and then he looks over and he sees his wife sitting down there. How does his wife not hear his voice and recognize her husband?
Yeah, it's better that he was playing the pipe organ and not the skin flute.
And then again, the assassin walks in, doesn't confirm which father it is.
Well,
he just says father.
Hold on a second.
He's even like, "Hey man, it's okay. I'm the one who hired you."
Yeah, like he's just like, "Oh wait."
Real fast. Like I that part didn't bother me at all, because the assassin just knows he's killing the priest at the church.
But there could be more than one. Like we already saw there was another guy there.
I'd like to think though they feel they'd have that conversation in advance. He's the priest of the church, and then that would make sense why. It makes sense in the story or in how to make it cohesive why he put the collar on. But,
right.
Well, yeah. So okay. So when I was watching this, when you knew she has a secret, I thought it was because she was pregnant and she just wasn't comfortable having sex while being pregnant. That's kind of why I figured it was. And then as soon as he put on the collar in the confession booth, I was like, oh, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
But
by that point, I thought it was still a good payoff, even if seeing where it's going to go.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make sense for her not to be comfortable because she's complaining that she doesn't want to get pregnant.
Right.
That's why she's not having relations, which again brings the question of why didn't they just talk about contraceptives?
Yes.
I mean, they definitely this is one of those things, just like so many like comedies, where all it would take is like sitting down for 5 minutes and like saying, "Hey, let's talk about this thing." It would have solved all the problems. But conflict stories, you gotta do it.
So yeah, there's definitely some seams in this episode that I can kind of see, but I think the performances and the quality of the actors are just make up for a lot of it. So not the best episode, definitely not as good as last week, Death of Some Salesman, but nowhere near as bad as some other ones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Jody, would you want to do the comic comparison?
All right, so this is an interesting one. It comes from Shock Suspense Stories number 14, which is April 1954. The script is by a guy named Carl Wessler, who is not a name I'm very familiar with in the EC bullpen. Art by George Evans, also another name I'm not as familiar with, but the art's really good. But I don't recognize either of these names. They probably do a lot more than I realize. But in this story, the man's wife is having an affair. Like, just straight up from the beginning, the first scene we see is her with her lover and him kind of hiding in the bushes. He has a gun in hand, ready to kill the other man, but he's spotted by a neighbor and leaves. And then we get like a flashback. They were once happily married, but she got bored and started going out every night to see her friend Helen. She would go help her friend Helen. She would go play cards with her friend Helen. Well, one night Helen calls and asks to talk to her, and she's supposedly with Helen. And she mentions that she hasn't seen her in a long time. And so the man immediately gets suspicious. Why, you said you've been going out with Helen all this time. You're not with Helen. So he starts following her and sees her with this other man. When she comes home, he confronts her about it. And she's really awful. Like, she's like, so what? What are you going to do about it? And he's like, I'm going to kill him. You're not man enough. Like, really just a terrible person, this wife. In this.
Real fast. So do you know how crazy that is to write that when they wrote that and make that powerful woman character?
Oh,
yeah, I'm fucking everybody in the bowling team. Like, deal with it, loser.
I think probably in the 1950s, though, this was more of like, look at what women are like, man.
Oh, God. No. Okay. Just ruin that for me. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know that she was necessarily, but anyway, she says, I'm going to go away with him tomorrow. We're taking a train. And so he very quick, like he's at a bar getting drunk and he mentions something about it. Someone's like, I know a hitman. And he goes to a hitman. This is not dad advice. This is human advice. If someone randomly says, I know a hitman, and you go to a guy and you're like, I want you to kill somebody for me. That's not a hitman. He's a cop. You're going to jail. It's never a hitman. It's always a cop. Like,
maybe
you
that's
don't know
advice.
any hitmen. You don't know anyone who knows any hitmen. You're not in that circle.
Maybe hold on a second. That's advice I think we don't want to give, because if you're at a bar and says, I know a hitman, and you decide to go through with it, whatever happens to you should happen to you.
Yeah.
Like, you should be in jail.
I'm just saying, just as general advice to good people who just want to know things, not people who want to hire. It's never a hitman, though.
But also, if you're a good person at the bar and you talk about a hitman, so I know a hitman, your reaction would be like, oh, that's neat. And you go move and sit on the other side of the bar.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay.
But anyway, he gives the hitman a picture of his wife, but he didn't get a good look at the man's face, so he can't give him a description of the guy. And so he goes back home and like goes and sees his neighbor to establish an alibi, when suddenly his wife comes back and she's just like, I couldn't go through with it. I've reconsidered, after she like chewed him out the night before. It was really awful. And he's like, oh, great. This is all good. We're going to make it all work now. And as they're standing there, she hadn't shut the door, and behind her, a man comes in with a gun and shoots him. And his wife, his life ends as his wife is begging him not to die. I'm very glad that this was not the adaptation we got.
Yeah,
this adaptation is so much better. Sometimes it's padding, but I think everything they added to this episode was absolutely necessary. I don't want the episode where the wife is awful and mean and having an affair. Like, the twist is still kind of the same. He hires the hitman and the hitman gets him. But if it had had this same lead up to it, it would not be the same story.
I agree. That turns it into the my most hated tale, the one where nobody
everyone's terrible.
Everyone's horrible, and I'm not rooting for anybody.
Right. Well, I mean, last week everyone was horrible, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, if it had been a serious episode like this and everyone had been horrible,
right,
I wouldn't have gotten anything out of it. I like that there were good people in this and bad people, and messing with the bad people is what got you in trouble. If you had just tried to fix things, you could have, but instead you led to your own downfall.
It's interesting because a big part of the episode is the priest in the church setting, and that's nowhere in the comic. So that's
I'm
an
guessing
interesting choice.
In 1954, you could cut off people's heads in comics, and you could, skin people alive, but you probably couldn't criticize the church. That's probably something that was a little bridge too far.
I'm
talking
more
about
thinking
contraceptives.
Right. Well, I'm more thinking about like, where did the show writers come up with the idea? Like, it would be great if we put this in the church. And we lost Mondo's video. Mondo, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. My
right as we were talking about the church.
Can you hear me? My webcam.
Yeah, the power of Christ just compelled your webcam.
There you are. You're back. They sent you back. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong.
All right, let's go to our episode rating. Jody, what do you rate this episode?
I'm going high with it. This is a 4.5 up for me. 4 out of
Damn.
4.5.
Wow. Mondo.
I just really love a good like noir. It's just I really like it.
You guys taught me up a little bit, but again, just going with some of the stuff I didn't like about it. I'm really kind of like nitpicking at probably based on just where I'm at right now in life. I'm gonna go a lot lower than Jody, which is I'm gonna go 2.5.
Yeah,
which again, the more Jody talks about it, I'm gonna have to renege my earlier statement and saying skippable. No, I think people should watch it. I really do. And form your own opinion on it.
Yeah.
I'm doing the 3.5. Not quite as high as Jody, definitely higher than Mondo, but yeah, it's definitely a solid episode
tonight. We got a good spread.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, at this point, we're going to turn it over to our good uncle Al for any anecdotes he wants to add. Okay, Mondo, give us your song of the day.
Okay, I have a wonderful little ditty for you guys today. It's by a band from New York who go by the name Immolation. It's they're a happy-go-lucky band. A fun fact is the two members that have been in the band for pretty much since their inception. Ross Dolan is the bassist and vocalist. He's got the longest hair ever. Dude just never ever cut his hair. His hair is still super long. My mouth stopped working. It's upsetting me right now. I'm having all kinds of problems tonight. And Robert Vignette, who's a lead guitar player, and they've been in the band since in the 80s. Before they were even releasing full records, because their first record came out in 91 called Dawn of Possession. Robert Vignette is wildly considered one of the best guitar players in like the death metal genre or in the world. He's just so freaking good. And if you watch a guy play, Jason, I want you to find a live video of Immolation after we're done and watch him play, because he has the weirdest playing style you ever see. Like, he's at least interesting to watch.
I'll look one up on mute while you talk.
But one thing I love about these guys is that they really went. They're very about very, of course, early death metal, very anti-religion, but they went from like the corny, over the top, like yay Satan, boo God, to more dealing with realistic issues with the church, realistic issues with religion, and not just trying to go for shock value. But in the year 2000, they released a record, and this is how I actually discovered them when I was a 17-year-old youngster. They released an album called Close to a World Below. Some of the coolest album artwork of all time. What I've always loved Immolation is they're still together today, with those two main members still part of the band. They that album, I thought, from start to finish, is a 5-star album. It's a perfect death metal record, and I love that they still, in a world where, and this may, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but a lot of modern bands, they're becoming too polished in that they go to vocal coaches and they learn how to sing, learn how to do these death metal vocals, and it doesn't sound just raw and organic and evil the way it should. And they still have that, even though they're the nicest people in the world. But the song I'm going to pick off that record is called "Father, You're Not a Father." It's very it's really about let's be honest, church molestation is what the song's about. But the whole album is like that, but it's a real criticism of the church and not just the standard death metal fare of God, you suck. And one of my favorite death metal bands, and Close to a World Below, I think is a perfect death metal record for people that might be into the genre, looking to get into the genre. I think that's one of the albums you just can't touch. There's not a skippable song on there. It's wonderful. And a funny other fact about them, back in 2011, they did an EP called Providence in conjunction with the car brand Scion. And the only way you could get the CD was basically going and picking up at a live show or going to a Scion dealership and getting the CD. And to this day, those songs are not on YouTube. Or sorry, they're on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube, but they're not on any streaming service. And if you have a copy of that CD, which I do, it sells like people will pay hundreds of dollars for that. I don't have the sleeve for it anymore, so I probably couldn't get that much for it. But it's also some of their best work. It's just funny. I was on an EP promoted by the car brand Scion.
Yeah, that's really random.
Yeah, they were trying to be edgy back then and got all these metal bands to do stuff. But I was actually really surprised when they picked up Immolation, because just being that, you think bands all make money, and they're not making a living off this. They're doing okay, but it's a side hustle.
Hey, I am convinced there's no such thing as selling out. You got to make that money when if
Hey,
someone
dude.
offers you a big old check, say yes.
Take
that check.
I always talk whenever I see these breweries that sell out and sell to Budweiser and Bev, and yeah, it bothers me because I'm like, fuck, I can't drink their beer anymore. And it's easy to throw rocks, or what they say, it's easy to cast stones inside of a glass house. I forgot the whole, but you know what? Until you've had a Wells Fargo truck back up at your house, like I really don't care about your opinion.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow, if someone offered me $10 million and said, we want you to write a country record, I'd be like, yeah, 100% easy, done. No, do you want me to cut my hair and my beard? I'll fucking get my tattoos removed. I don't even care. For $10 million, we'll do it.
The day one of the big podcast networks offers to pick up Dads from the Crypt for $10 million, but we have to clean it up.
And what are we doing? And we're going to review Dawson's Creek.
Sure.
Dads from the Creek. We're in.
I'll make the album artwork today.
Jody, I want that logo.
Dads from the Creek.
The joke is, I used to be really into Dawson's Creek when it first came out.
Oh, I kind of figured that's
the first couple seasons. Yeah, I was in high school.
He's not a hipster, like the later stuff. Those people are hipsters and idiots, but he liked the early stuff before it was cool. Oh yeah, so song of the day, Father You're Not a Father, off the album Close to a World Below by the band Immolation. And also I've gone back and listened today and painstakingly gone through our old episodes to try to remember what all my songs of the day were. I have them all written down, and by Friday I will have our Spotify playlist updated and an Apple Music playlist done if anybody wants to check out some of the stuff I put on here.
Unfortunately, I keep forgetting to mark down our episode ratings. So if you have an enterprising listener who wants to message me with all of our reading episode on the episodes,
he's talking to Tommy.
Tommy or
first of all, Jason, if I went back and listened through like 20 episodes to get this and fixed a lot of the grammar and spelling errors in our episode descriptions, I feel like you can go back and figure out the ratings.
Probably, but if someone happens to be. Okay. Jody, trivia.
All right, tonight we are doing random trivia again because the other options here were murder trivia, which that's every episode of Tales from the Crypt, or Catholic trivia, which would get us canceled. So instead, we're going with I have 5 random pieces of trivia. This first one I have specifically for Mondo because I figure he can speak to this. After working out, it takes 5 hours for your body temperature to return to normal.
I have no idea. I take a cold shower usually when I get home, except for tonight when I was running late, and that's why I'm probably going to get staph infection. But I don't know. I wonder if that changes though if you come home and take a cold shower.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I was about to say, I think maybe if it's just like from straight workout to, I don't know, just sitting around being all nasty for the rest of the night.
Yeah, that's gross. Like, please take a shower after you work out. Like, don't do like I see people at the gym that they'll grapple. Like, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go to the bar. I'm like, well, no, you should.
You're too stanky for the bar, sir.
You should really go home. I don't even care about the stench, but you have all these other people's like grime and sweat on you. Yeah. And hey, as a man who almost died due to fucking a MRSA infection, like for the love of God, just go home and take a shower.
Yeah. All right. Next fact. Duck quacks produce no echoes, and scientists don't know why.
I love this.
That's freaky.
Apparently they can quack as loud as they want. It won't echo, and nobody knows why.
My friend is a pet duck, and I've always wanted a pet duck.
A duck would be a nice pet. There's a little park in our area that has like a duck feeding area. So literally all I have to do is just show up with a couple pieces of bread in your hand, and there's like 50 ducks, and you just hang out with the ducks and throw bread at them. It's a good time.
Yeah, I live right by a duck pond with a bunch of ducks and geese. The geese are kind of dicks.
The geese are a little intimidating, honestly.
So we have a gang, and it's these 2 white ducks. They're big, and they have these weird little like bouffant hairdos on top of their head, but they hang out with 2 like weird looking brown ducks, and they're all 4 of them are always together, and they're up to something, and I'm gonna find out one day.
Speaking of ducks, my Oregon Ducks got murdered this week in football.
Well, also speaking of ducks,
Don't care. Sorry,
my
Jason.
next- my next
Mondo,
trivia.
for your,
I know
for
you
your
want
empathy
I,
there.
I know you want sympathy. I don't know what to give you, dude. Like I don't know what I don't care. But
Mondo, we just don't
sorry.
communicate anymore.
Hold on. I don't care the Ducks lost, but I do care how their loss makes you feel. I wish you were not upset by that.
This is communication. No one's hiring any private detectives here. All right. Speaking of ducks, though, another duck fact for you.
Jason, are you fucking your rabbi behind my back?
Yes, actually, but that's beside the point. Can you imagine?
I knew where that was going.
Can you imagine a private detective in the age of like COVID or work from home? Like, well, they didn't leave the house today. They had Uber Eats delivered, but they didn't leave anywhere.
Hold on a second. Jody tries to act all innocent, but all he's doing is putting the T-ball on the tee and seeing what happens.
Just setting things up. All right. Another duck fact. Finland once banned Donald Duck comics for sale due to the fact that he does not wear pants. So in Finland, Donald Duck was once considered offensive for his pantsless lifestyle.
Don't ducks have like corkscrew penises?
Yeah.
They do, and it's horrifying.
Yeah.
Like it drills in. It's bad.
Jody, did you know?
Do you know what a dildo is?
I don't want to know.
I think I can figure it out from the name.
That's
whatever you just thought of. That's exactly what it is.
That's right up there with the vajinkle.
Hey, isn't that that's a thing from Slumber Party Massacre too, right?
Yeah,
Kind of.
Exactly. Well, Joe, did you know that the University of Oregon still uses the Donald Duck logo because they still have an agreement with Disney?
Oh, I did not know that.
They're also.
Right.
Never mind.
Yeah.
So
I was going to make a really bad joke, but they're probably actually really progressive.
Yeah.
It's Oregon.
Yeah.
So going from Finland,
real fast. Not all Oregon is progressive, though. I just have to state
that's
that.
what's called Oregon State.
Like, and same thing in California. People don't realize, like Los Angeles, where Jason lives, is very progressive. Bay Area is very progressive. You get into some Northern California parts.
the reality is,
I'm looking at you, Bakersfield.
Don't tell me about Bakersfield. I'll have PTSD about being stuck on the side of the road.
The reality is every state, even Tennessee, Nashville is a progressive city. Yeah. It's really rural versus cities. It's not so much blue states and red states.
No, we need more people like Jody moving to Sparta, Tennessee. Turn that shit around.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So moving from Finland and their pantsless ducks to Australia, where our good buddy Andy lives, if he's listening. Do you think it's easy to change a light bulb? Usually, yes. But not in Victoria, Australia, because in Victoria, Australia, you're not legally allowed to change a light bulb without the help of a trained electrician.
What?
That sounds like some union shit.
That would make me mad. My last car, not the one I own currently, we had a crossover SUV type vehicle. And to change the headlight, you had to take the entire freaking bumper off of this car, take the whole front end off just to access the headlight. But I was not going to take that to the dealership just to get the freaking headlight changed. And so I learned how to take the entire front of my car apart just to avoid that. Apparently,
a lot of newer vehicles that have that start-stop mechanism where it stops at lights. You can't change the battery in them anymore. You have to take it to the dealership.
Oh, really?
I just did it. In my daughter's car, I just did it anyways. But I'm just gonna fucking change the battery, and I use a little code machine to turn everything off. So yeah, I'm like, holy shit.
The move towards cars only being able to be like even basic maintenance done at the repair shop really upsets me, and I hate it. And so I will take a car apart to avoid that.
And not to go on a rant about it, the fact that some cars now are going to where a subscription model. To where if I buy a Tesla and buy all the bells and whistles and I sell it to you or one of you guys, all that stuff can be turned off remotely, saying that you don't have the license to use that stuff. It's license based. Only I had the license for it. What I do love, our hackers are like, fuck that. Yeah. And are figuring out ways now to unlock that stuff for free.
Yeah. I haven't done it in a while because the scene's kind of died, but I used to be a jailbreaker on all of my Apple products. I just love doing it.
Yeah.
I loved being able to do stuff Apple didn't want me to do.
I do the same thing. And just to be 100 again, to go a little bit sideways, as all these streaming subscriptions, I'm talking about you Hulu and you Netflix, keep raising
Max, canceling
HBO Max, keep raising your prices. guess what? There's a lot of websites out there where I can get all that shit for free and not pay you. I'd rather pay you a reasonable price and be able to stream it, but I will fucking put an eye patch on and put my goddamn peg leg back on and go back to work if I need to.
All right, one last trivia fact here before Mondo gets arrested. I just love this fact. I'm quoting it exactly the way that I saw it written on the website. 63 Earths can fit inside Uranus.
Nah.
That's my kid's favorite joke right now.
It's still a good joke. I never get tired
about,
of it. There was
about Uranus.
Yeah,
So
there was something like that, some big headline from a big like science thing that was along the lines of like, you know, there's a dense gas inside Uranus, and I'm like, somebody had the best day ever writing that headline.
You know, it's funny when we saw that kind of stuff when we were kids. We're like, but now we realize, oh, the scientists thought it was just as funny as we did.
It's still funny.
There's an amazing, I think it's Wheel of Fortune. No, it's Jeopardy.
Jody, what are you chugging there? You're going to town. What are you drinking there?
Oh, I'm really not drinking it that fast. It's just a cup. I have some Golden Monkey from Victory Brewing, which is one of my favorites.
Nice. That's a good one.
So there's a Jeopardy clip where this woman's trying to come up with the name of a planet. And she says with a straight face, I cannot put a finger on Uranus.
Nice.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I respect
it. It never quits being funny.
Yeah.
Which is good. Like I don't want to be at an age where those jokes aren't funny. I want to chuckle all the time at those jokes.
Yeah, when I reach the point that somebody makes a Uranus joke and it doesn't do anything for me, I'm done. That's it. Go ahead and roll me into a hole. I'm done.
Let's listen to dad advice. This is a good topic because laughter is so fucking important. You know, when I worked at a nursing home for 4 years doing activities and things with the seniors, and my favorite thing to do with them I think it was the first Monday of the month, something like that, they would have a session called Laughter is the Best Medicine, where they would just get up and pass around the mic and just tell the dirtiest, funniest jokes they could come up with.
There is, and I'll have to find it to link it. There's a great Instagram account where all it is these retired people live in a retirement home that make funny videos that are everything from like saucy and kind of like sexually saucy. They're just ridiculous, and they have so much fun making them.
I mean, by the time you're, in a retirement home, like if you can't make a dirty joke, like what are you doing? Like that keeps you alive.
Yeah, it was before the days of Instagram and most other social medias, especially like smartphones. So I really wish I could have. I would totally be doing that kind of stuff now.
And aside from just even laughter, like I think when you're younger, I think one of the fears you have about getting older is not being able to do the things that you enjoyed when you were younger, or like you see these people that are in their 50s or 60s and they've kind of just given up, right? They feel they have to fit into a certain mold. Like, nope, I have to watch MacLachlan and jerk off to Murder, She Wrote. Like, I have to do these very specific things.
I mean, Angela Lansbury
or Golden Girls. Take your pick.
Don't be weird, Jason.
I'm the one who just called out Angela Lansbury when you talked about jerking off to
nothing weird about. I didn't know there's anything weird about that, but but what I mean though is like, don't like you can be older and have fun hobbies. You can be old. Like I hope in 10 years, I know in 10 years I'm still going to be watching horror and making dick jokes. As I hope I am. If not, then what the fuck did I do with my life? I hope in 10 years I'm still gonna be doing jujitsu. I'm still gonna be playing guitar. Like you don't have to give on things you love and don't have to fit into a mold. So to any younger listeners out there, like dude, like this is a journey. And you want to know what? If you're 45 years old and decide you want to start playing guitar, fucking do it. Or if you want to start like running or playing pool or doing jujitsu or doing kickboxing, fucking do it.
Or you turned 40 and decided to start a podcast.
Yeah, he turned 40 and started a podcast. You guys turned 40 and started a podcast.
That's pretty much what happened to me.
I joined a podcast in my 30s. We can talk again in 6 months. But but that's all what I'm saying is like you bring up laughter being a great thing and never stop laughing, but never stop doing the things you love and never feel that you can't start something new just because there are people who are 60 and decide, you know what? I've never written a letter in my life. I'm going to write a book. And they wrote good books. There are people who've done that. People who've decided 60, you know what? I want to be a lawyer. I'm going to go to school for 8 years and be a lawyer. It happens. So, hey, man, like just you have fun.
Yeah, let me piggyback on that, because again, as a father with little kids, you spend so much of your time showing them around, taking care of their needs. It's really important to find time to do something for yourself.
Very much so.
You really have to carve out that time, even if it's when they go to bed. Like, our living room is just a couple of feet from the kids' room. I don't care. I'll put on headphones, with Bluetooth, and watch like loud, scary movies and play loud video games once they go to bed. And that's my time to still do things I love.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, I've just gotten weirder as I've gotten older and embraced my weird interest more and more and more, And for me, it's one of those things where too many people, and I feel like this is particularly found in men, but I guess it's probably across the board. But people have this idea that like at a certain point you have to like grow up and only do adult stuff. Like my office is currently filled with action figures.
If you guys are not watching on YouTube, start watching on YouTube, because you get to see Jody's cool ass office and Benny back there who loves him.
Yeah, I mean, I have all this stuff because I love it. It makes me happy. I enjoy it.
Dude, I have Calvin and Hobbes next to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, next to Freddy, next to a Slayer poster.
Yeah, like, I'm looking up in front of I'm looking up in front of me right now. I've got Chucky and Tiffany and Ash and Jason and Freddy, like all these things that I love, because
hold on a second.
Anyone who tells you have
Tiffany in human form or puppet form?
It's puppet form. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, don't.
I mean, still.
Quick side note, Mondo. I did notice that Jennifer Tilly said she was done recording Chucky season 2, and she was heading to Vegas.
Well, she has a house here in Vegas. She actually has a condo in Vegas, about 2 miles from my house.
Creepy.
Have I told the story about the time I helped her at Sharp Image while I was working? I think I told that story.
Yeah.
No, she told me she lived at Queensridge Tower, which is a couple miles from my house. But maybe she used to, but I don't know if she's still married or dating the poker player. So I think they lived together at the time. So who knows? Again, that was a lot of years ago, and I haven't paid attention to where she's lived since.
Right.
For the record.
For the record.
But if she's listening, my address is.
Anyway,
and to be fair,
I was getting at,
as a happily married man, she can come over for dinner and then she has to go home.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was getting at is, to me, it always seems kind of pathetic when you've got somebody in their 30s, 40s, whatever, who is concerned about like, I don't want to do, childish things. Like I want to be a grown up. I only enjoy like adult. If you enjoy adult things, awesome. Like things that traditionally are considered adult, awesome. Enjoy those things. Have a great time with them. If you enjoy silly, frivolous things, enjoy those too. Like just find a way to enjoy the things you go through with your life.
But in some form of moderation or balance, because you don't want to be the guy who's still going out every night and partying.
Yeah. I got bills to pay. If I drink too much, I'll have a hangover for 3 days now.
In the manageable way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
but do you find life. So do you find that women are generally better at doing that?
What? Which part?
Just not feeling like they fit inside these constraints.
I mean, there's definitely there's a societal expectation that men are supposed to act a certain way. And I always hate most of the ways that they think men are supposed to act.
Yeah. And I mean, it's in a very positive way, because I see this with just like women in my life who are still not afraid to be silly and go have like, we're going to go to our friend's house. We're just going to watch fucking Hocus Pocus and have mimosas. I'm like, dude, Jason, Joe, do you guys want to come over and watch Hocus Pocus and have mimosas? We're probably watching Blood Sucking Freaks. Just saying.
Sure.
But there's an article that I probably look up, and this is one of the most important things that males lose over the years is the act of playing. that's something like inherently in our DNA that we need. And this is from my personal experience. Like I have that through jujitsu, whereas I get to go and just hang out with a bunch of people, men and women, and we just fucking grapple for an hour or 2 hours, and it like makes everything in my life better because that makes my brain better, physically better, all those things, but gets that primal need to like do something physical out of the way. And I think that's one thing that I think that's 100% what you just said, Jody, that don't forget that like part of life and part of enjoying life is doing things you enjoy, no matter what those things are. Never, like, you should never feel that I can't play video games anymore. I'm too old. Should you play video games for 14 hours a day and neglect your children? No. But if that's what you love and you want to spend 4 hours playing God of War on your day off, fucking do it. Like, or 12 hours on your day off, whatever. And I think that's a really, really great point that we need to still have those outlets, those positive and healthy outlets to just enjoy life.
Well, I posted this in a place that y'all have probably seen. I just ordered this coin recently. And it's kind of like the size of like I guess like an AA coin, or something like that. It's a little bit bigger than.
I was hoping you were going to become Two-Face, but
yeah. But anyway, it's a little bit bigger than like a quarter. And on one side, and it's all in Latin, just because it's cool to have stuff in other languages. But on one side it says "Time flies," and then the bottom of it says "Memento Mori," and "Memento Mori" means remember death. Okay, the whole point of the remember death thing is not to be morbid, like, oh no, death is coming, but just to realize we don't have a ton of time. And so we need to make the best of our lives, like do what we can. Death will eventually get us all. That's not a morbid thought. It's just reality. And the other side of the coin says carpe diem, and then have seize the day and remember to live, have an incredible life. And I got that coin because it's just a reminder to me, like every day we have, you don't know if you have another day. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't know if you have tomorrow.
Oh, I told Jason, by the way, that if I die, that Tommy gets to replace me in the podcast.
Sure. Good.
Cool. So I'll make sure.
I'm glad we have that worked out already.
No, I'll use this to promote an interview that should be coming out very soon with this gentleman that I got put in contact with. He was a first assistant director on many big films, the 70s King Kong movie, the Back to the Future series, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He worked on one of the Tales from the Crypt episodes and All Through the House. And we talk about all those movies, but we also talk about how, he was in Hollywood for 30 years. He had little kids and he barely got to see them. And then one day he realized, I just want to spend time with my kids now. And his daughter was getting into gymnastics in a very cool way that really, really random. They just happened to win like 2 free sessions, and turned out that one of the coaches like, I think I can do something with this girl. And she says, you know what? I'm going to step away from the Hollywood life and everything. I'm going to go be my daughter's coach and father. And, I'm going to be her assistant director. And she made it to the 2016 Rio Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And now he's sitting down and writing a book about all of this. So we talk a lot about that. And name is David McGiffert. We'll when the episode comes out, we'll obviously link to all that. But so far, I've been reading the book and really liking it. Lots of cool Hollywood stories, and we'll get to all the good parenting stuff in that book. So it might not seem like a Tales from the Crypt thing, but it's a really good parent story. So check it out.
Well, I mean, Jody, you with your kids, man, going all over the world, do karate tournaments and shit.
Yeah.
Those are memories that no matter what happens in their lives, no one can ever take away from them.
Yeah.
Those are experiences. And also not only that, like, and this is also with martial arts. They've learned martial arts. They've learned skills. No matter what happens in life, those are their skills. Those are their artistic expression that no one can ever take away from them. And much like the gymnastics story you just did, Jason, that's a kid who now has these great, incredible life experiences that no matter what happens in life, those are always going to be there and be near and dear.
Well, I think we have this idea that, like, as teenagers and kids, like, we get to explore all this stuff and try new things. And like my 14-year-old just recently picked up a guitar literally yesterday for the first time because my brother gave him an old guitar that he could practice with, and he's going to give us some lessons. And, we think of teenage years as a time to do all that, but there is absolutely nothing preventing you in your 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever from doing something like that. from trying something new, from finding maybe you've lived 50 years and you find your passion at 53 and you find that thing you love and you pursue it for the rest of your life, man. Like there's nothing stopping that from happening. And that's, that quote I mentioned earlier. Some people think of like that carpe diem as like a rise and grind, like work every day, but that's not it at all. It's just about like living your life and making the best out of every moment you have.
I started jiu-jitsu at 33 and my buddy Will started at 45. And that's his passion. He loves it. Yeah. He discovered it at 45 and it's been nothing but good for him. So like you said, it's never too late for any of this shit. It's never too late for any of this shit. And when I see older people coming, they're older than me, that have their first class, I'm super stoked. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I hope you love this because all I want you to do is love this thing that I love. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Well, that wraps up another episode. Next week, we will be reviewing Forever Ambergris, if I'm saying that right.
Real fast, Jason, before we wrap up, you're probably going to say this, but I just want to say we did our first ever watch along on Friday. We did Chopping Mall with our good friend Tommy and Patreon supporter. We're going to do more of these. That was kind of our trial run. But we have a Patreon account. Jason, how do we get to our Patreon account?
I think it's just patreon.com/dads from the crypt.
Or / backslash is a file system, / is internet. But we're also talking about doing other cool things, and if any out there has any ideas and they join up and have ideas, please let us know. We'd love to include you guys as much as possible.
And we have a $1 tier, just basic supporter. You get shout out,
Yeah, I'm tired of paying $14.99 a month for Zoom. So just please sign up for $1, so I don't have to pay that much money. But also we're also probably we talk about this, going to soon start doing these episodes as we record them live. We'll start giving the links out to our Patreon supporters so you can kind of watch all our outtakes and all of us saying stupid stuff, and the before show when we're talking about things in our lives I may not talk on the show. So it'll be pretty cool, and to our supporters out there, we really do. It's like seriously from the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate you guys, because it means a lot to me, because hey man, like it's really cool to have something that you do and you love doing, and other people are into it too, and they want to support us. So thank you so much.
All right. As I always say, we appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate if you would give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Check out our Patreon for bonus content. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Adios to everyone but Glenn Jacobs. Fuck you.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch, but be careful what you ask for. You may get it.